Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Toggy.
What's up, guys? Glad to be back. We got Madison with us 3 weeks in a row. 2.
Yeah, man. I missed 1 week, and now it's like I play hooky all the time.
Yes.
It's all right.
Keeping up
Just get shit on
appearances.
here and in the comments. So,
There you go.
oh,
Yeah,
big yawn.
That's always a good start. That's always a good start to a big episode like this one. I mean, it's better than my cough, which I don't know if that will have been picked up there on the start of the recording, but apologies if it was. All right, so let's get the Substack done because people in the Discord asked for it. They were serious. They wanted it. So I am going to attempt to read all of the names backwards on
In one
the
breath?
list. Not in one breath, because I'm going to have to pause to make sure that I don't say anything offensive because of stuff that's reversed, you know. But I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to try my best to do it. So here we go, and I'll read it in reverse order too. Our Substack founding members, thank you to Sonise Otribor. That's a good start.
60 minutes later.
Aleliv Okram. Kerat, Oisif Tuj, Sluz Ekim, 31, Ilnave, Otavav Kered, Eknif Nilrem. Am I dyslexic? Maybe.
No, you're reading names backwards.
Yeah.
I know. Resan, that's a nice one. Thank you, Nasser. Isaf, Olrak, Taja, Rab. I love the idea that someone's just tuning in for the first time to see if this is like a Milan podcast worth listening to. Anyway, Raboxe Lauer, Onaliv Ekel, Stam, Matt's coming in. Oh, what if there's a link there? Is his name Matt's? I guess it is, but it's Stam backwards. There you go. JM, brilliant. Nemek, Olrag, Yoedge, Namlop, Zitirom, Cam Otit. Oh, Des Windsor McGlynn. How am I going to do this? Nilkmuk Rosdiner said. That's the best I can do for that one. That's what you get. That's what you get when you're a Substack founding members. Every now and again, you get your name read out backwards and butchered by me. Thank you to everybody over on the Substack. The pub chat on from over the weekend was a what if Ibrahimovic never returned to Milan in 2020. That's what Lorenzo and Steph did. Won't spoil any more than that. The bonus podcast we did was a Champions League pulse check, given that we're halfway through the big league phase now. Talked about our hopes of going through, how the table looks, that kind of thing. Isaac did a bonus article on the corporate rotation at Milan. There are some rumours that some key figures within the corporate side are set to step aside. Talk about whether it's natural under an ownership like Redbird and what effects it could have on the club. And the newsletter, Veni Vidi Vici, was about our magical night at the Bernabeu, which we are going to talk about, what it could mean for the team moving forward, which we're also going to talk about. And there's a news bulletin in there where pick out some of the key stories from the week. Okay, off we go. Let's start with a good one, shall we?
Just for the record, the reading the names backwards took like a minute 45.
That's actually not as bad as it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was going to come in like 3 minutes maybe. But yeah, some help.
Everyone put the playback speed on 1.25. Get through that.
Yeah, helped by a couple of the names being, just a few letters long. So cheers to you lot. Okay, Real Madrid away. We gave Maddie said anything can happen, which was a bold prediction from him. But generally, people were not giving us a chance going into this game at the Bernabeu. Even though Real have had a bit of a shaky start in the Champions League, obviously we have to. We know the attacking firepower that they have. We know the history that they have in the competition as the current holders and the 15 times winners. We've been struggling defensively. We can't get any consistency going. We'd lost a big game against Napoli prior, and it's, everything seemed to point towards us really struggling in this game. Performance of the season is what ended up following, and a 3-1 win. I don't know how we do this.
It kind of makes sense, right? Because like lesser teams have been bringing it to us all season, and we were a lesser team, and we took it to the bigger team, right?
Yeah, we don't typically do that though, so
No.
it was a nice
It's just
surprise.
Fonseca ball.
Okay, just gonna glaze over that one. Yeah, it was fun. It could have been better, even. Loftus-Cheek missed I don't want to say a sitter, but a pretty high level chance, I think, in the end there to make it 4-1, and that's okay. I wasn't expecting anything. But yeah, it was just, I don't know. Does anyone else want to talk about it? Like, my mind is still flooded with the next game.
I
we're gonna
watched the
talk
first
about.
half, was very pleased. Had to go pick up my son from daycare. My wife goes, "Are you sure you don't want to watch the game?" I was like, "No, we're gonna lose. Like, I don't want to watch the downfall. Go pick him up, get back in the car, and it's 3-1." And I was like, "Oh my god! Like, we need to hurry home. We are gonna win this game." And oh shit. And my bad. My
There we
bad.
go.
And
there we go.
I thought I exited out of that.
Okay, so the first goal was from Chow.
Yes, it was. It was, and it was a familiar set piece. We've seen this one before. This one was probably most like the Pavlovic goal, where it was like a clean Pavlovic against Lazio, where it was like a clean connection on both fronts. Really, really powerful near post header from Malik Chow. Yeah, we've seen that threat. I think if you're a Real Madrid fan, you're really, really pissed off to concede a goal like that, given that it's been an obvious ploy of ours, and in fact, it's all we seem to do from corners. We don't have another way to take a corner. We've always basically whipped them into the near post like that, and it was an uncontested header for the biggest player on the pitch, or at least on our side. So that was a very, very good start. Settled into the game quite well, I thought. The problem was then, when you go a goal up early as we did, it was always going to be one-way traffic from that point onwards as Real Madrid tried to get themselves instantly level. And then we come to the penalty incident, Emerson Royale's foul on Vinicius Jr. Now, I'm of the simultaneous opinion that this is both a soft penalty and a correct penalty. Is that
it was
fair?
I get why you think it's soft, but it is the correct call. So I don't think it's that soft. It's a very
he drags his leg. That's the thing. Like for me, the contact's minimal, but it's there, so it's always going to be.
Vinny's always behaved like that. We saw him flop when Mignon just grabbed the ball near him. So you got to know when Vinny's in the box. If you're a defender, if you're going to ground near him, he's going to follow you down. He's going down whether you touch him or not. So in this situation, you do get contact. You got to do better. You can't be doing that against a guy like this. It's textbook. We've seen it a million times, so I'm not surprised at all by it. We all kind of anticipated he was going to get one over Emerson. Glad it was only one, and his penalty was a great penalty as well. He tricked Mike, made him dive before he even kicked the ball, so then he just sent it down the middle.
Yep. I'm just watching it back here because I wanted to see the position that Vinny was in. The defense is a little bit static for it, and the thing that annoys me, and Emerson Royale wasn't to know this because he doesn't have eyes in the back of his head, is that I actually don't think Vinicius is getting on the other side of the touch that he took, because the ball is about to be cleared, or even if he does, then he's very, very close in with Maignan, so he doesn't necessarily score. However, there was arguments being made at the time. I saw on Twitter of people saying, well, like, you better roll in the dice in that situation because you'd score anyway. And I don't think that's necessarily the case watching it back there. But yeah, a silly tackle. perhaps what you'd come to expect from somebody who's suspect defending in one-on-one situations like Emerson. And I think now you go back to an important tactical point before the game with the selection that was made and the decision to play a 5-man defence with Emerson Royale and then Yunus Musa chipping in as a wing-back. You see something like that happen after we've taken the lead and you think, this maybe isn't going to work. And that was really other bits of danger, other half chances, don't get me wrong. But that was really the only time when they looked completely flustered and totally broken wide open, And that was the only goal and they didn't score from open play. So I think, you get the negative out of the way there. What I was worried about after they equalised was that we would completely collapse and that, Real Madrid would quickly take the lead. And then you're looking at it being 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. That never came. If anything, they gave us an opportunity to kind of get ourselves comfortable in the game again. They allowed us a lot of the ball. And I think by the time that we retook the lead just before half-time, we probably deserved it again.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think they had the momentum leading up to our goal, and then obviously the momentum leading up to their goal. But then we kind of took charge of the rest of the first half. Total stat-wise, looking at it, this is the game that everyone would look at the stats and be like, oh, I should probably watch that one back because they actually had a higher XG at 2.66 to our 2.45. They had more shots, 23 to our 14, and they had more shots on target, 10 to our 9. But the fact we had 9 shots on target out of 14 against the defending champions is very impressive. But also their 23 shots and the fact they had 10 of them on target also shows how big Mike was for us. And just watching it,
a lot of sitters.
Go ahead, say that again.
I said I feel like they missed a lot of sitters.
Yeah, I feel like Mbappe took quite a few wide.
Was there. So, it could have been a way different game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't feel like this was a game where we dominated in the sense that, we took the lead twice and then we extended the lead after that. And that we didn't concede from open play. But I don't feel like it was a defensive masterclass by any means.
No.
I think they broke us down pretty well. It was just a back and forth end-to-end game, and we just happened to be on the good side of all those chances, whereas they weren't.
You're never
going to
down
to Mike.
You're never going to restrict a team like Real Madrid with that front three and with that midfield to 5 shots and 2 on target. It's just never going to happen. They are probably still the best attacking team in Europe. So I think it was always going to be a case of bend and don't break. And I think we've conceded way too many goals this season. You look at like the Lukaku one for Napoli, and there's been others that have been similar where just go straight down the middle or work the ball to the left and cross it into the middle. We've conceded 9 goals that same way this season, and we'll come on to it with the Cagliari game.
Yeah,
but
which is interesting because that was something that Real Madrid couldn't capitalize on, and they had arguably the best attacking trident in the world on those ends, and they couldn't get it away. I'm just looking at Mike's stats here. He had 6 diving saves, 5 saves total inside the box, meaning that means half of them were inside, half were out because they had the 10. So, that's really impressive stats. When you look at how this weekend went versus that, you think, okay, that was Mike at his best versus Mike probably at his worst. But this was the exact performance you needed him to bounce back from because he did pretty poorly last week as well. I don't remember if it was the game of the weekend or the midweek game against Napoli was the game.
Napoli one he could have done better. Yeah, he was big. And it is one of those as well where when you look at the XG is quite high for both teams. So it really is a case of where that particular number suggests that both teams had quality chances and it could have easily been 3-3 rather than 3-1. But how many times have we looked at our performance and said it was good, but we just didn't take our chances? It was nice to come out on the right side of that for once. And when you're paying, God knows what salaries Real Madrid's front three are on, Vinicius, Mbappe and Bellingham. But yeah, when you're paying them that much, they kind of have got to find the corner every once in a while, otherwise you are going to lose games like this. And this before we talk about the third goal, which is kind of what I think this all stems from, I wanted to read what Fonseca said after the game. And I thought it was probably one of the most interesting things that he said since he's been our manager. And it was the last thing that he said in the TV interview afterwards. He said, I have to look at the overall context. For me, I like to play the way I like to play my football. These are games with more space to play in. People outside of Italy do not understand how tough it is in Serie A. Monza man mark, Cagliari up next one man mark. You see Atalanta were the only team who managed to beat Bayer Leverkusen last season and their man mark. It's more difficult to play in Serie A than it is in the Champions League because of these tactical issues. Easier for us to play tonight, even if it was against Real Madrid, the best team in the world, because it's completely different. So he was basically saying, this is my kind of game. I think it's both correct and also a bit worrying that he would say something like that. What he's basically saying is he needs the game to be wide open for this Milan team, for his Milan team to show its best qualities. And I don't think that's necessarily a recipe for success domestically. But I think he's also saying that we haven't yet found the answers to beat the other, in the other types of games. And the worry is that the other types of the games, he mentions Monza and Cagliari, are the games we really expect to win. So like he's kind of saying, we're fine against Real Madrid, but we haven't figured it out against these yet. And that's kind of like a weird thing to process. I think he's been brutally honest as well by saying it. Like, the players must take some accountability too with it, I guess. But
yeah, and he's not wrong, because you look at a wide open game means, every team's going to have chances. And then you look at this weekend where offensively we're, again, fantastic, 3 goals. But defensively, we were awful. We conceded 3 goals. So, I mean, he's not wrong, but I wish he was, because it's not correct. It's not the way football should be played. It's exciting as a neutral for sure. Everyone wants to see 6 goals in a game, 4 or 5 goals a game, but if your goal is to win games and win trophies and play at the highest level, you can't be letting in 3 a game. You can't do that.
He should be able to change tactics based on the
Yes.
opponent, right? Like, if you're playing one style, that's what got Pioli fired.
Agreed.
That's very true. That's very true. And look, I get it. As someone mentioned in the Discord earlier, that like in a way this might be a transition season for us. We'll come on to where we sit in the league and stuff, but it's looking pretty bleak. This could be a transition season for us where actually Fonseca finds it very easy to turn us into a good attacking team. And then we work on shoring up the defence and winning those games where a greater physical effort is required. But for the time being, what it makes for is a really inconsistent and difficult team to follow, because, we're going from beating and dominating Inter, beating and dominating Real Madrid, to dropping points in these other games. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting takeaway from the game, because he should be, and he will have been, riding a high, crest of a wave stuff. You've just seen your team, and by the way, his Shakhtar team beat Man City. I mean, I can't remember what year it was in particular, but I remember that being quite a big shock at the time. He came in with the Zorro mask afterwards. So I think he's shown he is capable of being an astute tactician in these big games. But I did find that an interesting comment on one. It was like an admission that we still got some work to do, especially domestically. And it brings us on to the third goal in terms of there being plenty of space. What a run from Leao, and what a finish from Reijnders. Like, contender for goal of the season in terms of that link up.
Yeah, I
really
would
good.
say the most impressive part about it actually was the beginning with Reijnders. It actually started with Tammy Abraham. He was under pressure. I think he lost possession. He didn't actually make a pass to Reijnders, but Reijnders received it and did like a pirouette through two defenders, kicked it off a little bit, and that was the most impressive part of it to me. And then obviously Leao's run was great. Beat 2 more defenders, slotted it into Reijnders again, who actually didn't do the greatest job of controlling the ball. It kind of bounced, but in a weird way that benefited him with the shot, because it was off the ground a little bit, and just right through and in and perfect. And Reijnders has been our talisman lately. I mean, even this weekend we'll get to it again, but he's just been contributing every single game.
Yes.
For the start of the season, it was all Pulisic, and now it's becoming Reijnders. Pulisic still, he had an assist in that game, or this game, but yeah, Reijnders is just, he's hitting that form. It's a real shame it's the international break, because I just want to keep watching him do his thing for us. He's been incredible lately.
He has. He's been absolutely outstanding, and I think it was a big. I don't want to say a psychological step because it's not like he's got loads of doubters or anything in the same way that Leao did. But I think it was massive for him to do it on the biggest stage like this. And annoyingly, it's one of those performances where it's like a coming of age game and it could turn into a bit of an audition. Like he's just put himself in the window there and everyone's looking at him like he was the best player on the pitch at the Bernabeu in this Milan team that's gone and won there 3-1. But fantastic goal. Agree with everything. Perhaps a little fortunate with the touch, but brilliant to work out of that. Leao, off he goes. Did say pre-match in the preview ep that we did that I thought Leao v Vazquez was a mismatch, and it did prove to be that way. So I'm glad that we managed to get the ball enough to him to have a run at him, and then that leads to the third goal. RLC misses that chance late on to potentially miss it to make it 4 from Teo's lung busting run down the left side. Would have been icing on the cake. However, I thought we were in shit when Rudiger scored.
Yes. Yep. Well done.
Yeah.
I think when that went in, everyone in the chat at the exact same time said, "Here we go!" Like everyone expected it. But yeah, when they started reviewing it, I lost my mind. I was like, "Oh no, we're getting away with this one," and it actually, it was offside. I don't know how impactful the offside was, and if the offside rule was changed to reflect, how I would prefer it to be, it would have counted. But in this case, obviously, glad it didn't. And when we get to the next game, we probably would have lost 6-3 if I had my way. So glad that didn't happen either. But that was a scary moment.
Incredible finish from Rudiger, that for a centre-back, to drill it between bodies into the empty net first time. It was a confusing one. I didn't understand what they were checking for at first. I thought they might have been checking for whoever the player was that was nearest to Rudiger, who was clearly beyond him, and looking, did he impact Maignan decision to go for the ball? I think you could probably argue yes on that, actually. But it wasn't. The offside was officially given on Rudiger because, and I think that the reason for it is because the cross comes in and Maignan comes for it, and he basically gets a tip on it, rather than a deliberate deflection back the other way. And therefore it remains the same phase of play and doesn't reset in the same way it would if a defender headed it out, say. It remains the same thing. So the moment he interferes, he's doing so from a previous offside position. So I agree. Like, it's not the way I would like the game to be played. Maignan went for the ball. Yeah. However, I take it in that moment. And that was kind of it. Do you know, like, I don't know, because it's a slightly different situation because it was about aggregate and stuff like that. Remember when Napoli in that second leg of the quarterfinal, they had the big chance to reopen the game with that penalty that Maignan saved, and it was like that. Everything hinges so much on that moment because if the goal goes in, I don't back us to see out the job. Whereas the fact that it didn't, in this case, it was overturned. I'm like, that's effectively sealed it. Like, we've now done it. They're not going to come find some extra spirit from that. And that was it. Yeah, that was it. Brilliant. Massive 3 points in terms of the table as well. It lifts us up into the playoff places for the first time. And we know the games that are to come. We've got Slovan Bratislava, Dinamo Zagreb, Girona, and Red Star to come in our final 4 games. We've been inconsistent, so we can't really expect it to be 12 points, but it should be 12 points, and we should be pushing towards the top 8 now.
Those are the games our coach says he can't motivate the players for, so we'll see.
Yeah. Or maybe we're a Champions League team. Maybe that's what he's trying to say. He's happy for it to be wide open.
All over again.
He's in our DNA.
Yeah. But no, that was massive. That was like genuinely one of the more memorable nights in our recent history, without a doubt. It always feels like in these big games, you've spoken about previous games against Premier League teams when the eyes of all the Prem heads are on us and we fail against Chelsea, against Liverpool and stuff like that. Finally, once we've got everybody looking at one of our results and going, oh, they're impressive. There was something there. Like, I had a couple of mates watching the game texting me saying, yeah, holy shit, you outplayed Madrid in Madrid. Like, that's something. And we know what Madrid are like. First half of the season, they can be shit. And then when the big games come that matter, they win and win and win constantly. That could still happen. We might have just beaten the team that goes on to win it again there. But for now, we take it. And yeah, I hope everybody that was in the away end, including a couple of mates of mine, had a very, very good night. Tops and flops. I'm going to go Reijnders as my top. He was silky AF.
That's a good pick, but I'm going Mignon. I think we lose that game with any other keeper in goal.
Great ones. I'm gonna go Reijnders because he scored again, and he, just finish it off. And we obviously look lost without him. So,
Yeah, I want to say I feel a bit sorry for Lunin, who is probably like the best. I'd say the best backup goalkeeper in the world. Like, he's got Courtois ahead of him. Courtois is injured. He gets to run the games. He made some mint saves in this game. The Leao header, the Leao shot that he
I forgot about that header.
The shot from Leao on the spin that none of his defenders decided to react to, and Morata just taps it in. Easy rebound. That was a beautiful counter attack, by the way. And he made another one as well. Oh yeah, from the Loftus-Cheek shot that was pretty much straight at him, but still good positioning. Just no help springs to mind. Absolutely no help. And flop of the match. I'll go. This is a difficult one because I think that as a unit, the team did probably the best job that they could to a man. However, because of the tackle that he made in that moment and the way that he jeopardized the game situation, it has to be Emerson.
100% agree. That's easy pick for me.
Be different. I'm gonna go Fofana because he has a 6.4 on FootMob, and Emerson has a 6.46.
What? Yeah, I wonder what negative. Like, I wonder.
I have no idea
how you get for. Yeah, I don't know what you get for conceding a penalty. I just want to look at who we give ours as. But yeah, I actually thought the midfield pairing both did pretty well. It's interesting that Fofana's got a much lower rating. I can't find our ratings now, but yeah, it was good. Happy days. We move on to less happy days.
I guess I gotta press that button, huh?
Yeah, sadly you do. Less happy days in Sardinia.
Yay.
Right, where do we go with this one? Let's start with the team selection. Did you, or were you in favour of the fact that he reverted back to the 4-2-3-1 on paper, or would you have stuck with the system that worked well in Madrid and just slightly changed the way it was
after
deployed?
Looking at what happened, I would have kept things the same. And I mean, also, like, if it worked in Madrid, it's going to work elsewhere. So why change it if it's not broken, right? And he changed it and it was broken. So
he broke what he fixed.
Well, and my thought process is against smaller teams like this, they're probably most likely to score on the counter. Mm-hmm. So putting in Chukwueze, Pulisic, Leao kind of takes away a lot of your defense, right? So having Musa on there adds that extra layer of defense, which is why he played against Madrid, because they didn't want to get caught on the break. Why he didn't think that could happen here, I don't know. But I would have kept it the same. I was kind of against Camarda starting as well, but obviously no one was fully fit, so it is what it is. And he didn't do that bad. He had a shot on target, right? Didn't he? He had a header that was really close.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I think it was at the beginning of the second half, right?
Something like that. Yeah, because he only played like an hour or so. I think he could have done better, but he also, like, youngest player to start for us in the 3-point era, so I'm not gonna attack him for that. A good moment for him and his family, I'm sure, but it's frustrating when, like, was it a tactical choice or was it a symbolic choice? Because going into the winter or the international break here, there's 14 days off between that game and the next game. There's 12 days between that game and when Donnarumma made his first start. So this was our last chance to kind of erase Donnarumma's records and legacies with us. And so I wonder if this was more of a symbolic decision, which I don't think Camarda's at fault for any of the goals we let in. Let me make that very clear. But he also didn't score any goals. And did Tammy score a goal in this game? He did, right?
Yes, he did. He came off the bench and scored. But I think
Camarda
would have scored that one too.
He probably would have. I mean, this isn't really that big of criticism. I know I'm going to be attacked for it, but just a little nitpicking. Hindsight's 2020. So when you do something like this and then you go, well, maybe this wasn't the right game for that, but what game will be, So I guess I don't really have a problem with it. I'm talking myself out of it.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, you come full circle. So there's something interesting on the Camarda front, in that he's either the youngest or the second youngest, depending on how you want to measure it. The official line, this came from Opta, is that he was actually 2 days older than Donnarumma. He was 16 years, 244 days, whereas Donnarumma's debut came at 16 years and 242 days. However, and I guess there must be some like leap year shit involved here. Camarda was on 16 years, 7 months and 31 days, whereas Donnarumma was on 16 years and 8 months exactly, which made him a day. So, goodness knows. I honestly still do not know the answer as to who was younger. The club said Donnarumma was younger.
And take it away from Donnarumma because he's a snake.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. The club say that Donnarumma was younger by 2 days. Opta are saying that Camarda was younger. So it comes down to how you count it, whether you count it just as days or if you include months and days. There you go. He got the nod, and it was good to see. It was literally by necessity, as it turns out. Morata got collided heads with Pavlovic in training on the Thursday, so he was out due to concussion protocol. Tammy Abraham has been training non-contact for quite a while after his shoulder dislocation, so he was fit enough to make the bench in the Real Madrid game and came on for a bit, but effectively he was only 30 minutes fit, as we found out. And then Luka Jovic has had chronic lower back pain since like early October and has been called up by the Serbian national team, so you can work that one out. I think we might just be freezing him out, to be honest. But it was an interesting game for him to get his start in, because he was facing two quite experienced players at the back. They have Luperta, who they signed in the summer, who's, I guess, like a bit of a Serie A veteran now. And I can't remember who the other one was. The other one was Palomino, of course, formerly of Atalanta. So two experienced heads who were always good. They weren't going to give him an easy ride, let's put it that way. They're physical. They like to get on top of players, and that's the way that they operate. So I did think that might be that might make things hard for him to get into the game. First goal, 2 minutes in. Well, less than that. Basically just over a minute into the game.
Yeah.
Should have been offside, this. Should have been offside.
Oh, yeah, because there was the guy blocking Maignan vision.
Lovumbo, he stood in an offside position, and Maignan is literally craning his head around. And if you want an explanation as to why VAR didn't take a look at it and call the referee over and everything, nobody knows. Gazetta said this morning that the images were just missing. So I can't really work that out. I guess what they're saying is, so obviously, if they're looking at an offside, they have to produce the semi-automatic rendering, which then goes out on the monitor that the ref looks at, but also on broadcasts around the world. Like, we get to see it, but the image was never produced, is what they're saying. So you rewind that back, they never checked for it. They never did the semi-automatic stuff. So that implies that they just totally missed it. So I would like an explanation, really, from the league on that, which hasn't been forthcoming so far. But yeah, that's frustrating. And the ball wound up in the back of the net. It was sloppy defending, don't get me wrong. We allowed the last man runner to come in from the corner of the box and finish through a crowd of bodies. And that put us 1-0 down. But at least we had, 88 minutes to respond. And we did respond pretty quickly. Leao scored 2 very nice goals. And that's good for his form.
And Reijnders and Fofana both had the assists on it. So our midfield's fantastic. I actually really like it. Except for when Loftus-Cheek is pulled on. But besides that, it's usually pretty solid. The story of this game is offside. They had 8 called against them. We had 3. That doesn't include the first goal, obviously, which stood. That shouldn't have. There were 2 goals called off for them.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah. And I think one of the ones that stayed on was also reviewed for offside, but was deemed okay, right?
Yeah, they're all kind of blended into one in my
I know
head
there's
now.
so many, but it was constantly happening offside.
Yeah, it was the second
offside,
one.
Offside. So, yeah. I'll be honest, I didn't go back and rewatch the game or the highlights because why would I? But I know that Zappa guy had 1 goal in his entire career, and
I got by going, this is his second goal in 109. Oh, his third goal. I was like, shut up, man. Like, you get it.
yeah, and he should have had a hat trick if
Yeah.
not for Lavumbo, who was offside, tapping in a shot that was already past Mike going in. And then that one got called off, thank God. So
I do remember that. Okay.
yeah, he would have had a hat trick, a right back of all people, because we got beaten on the far post every single time. No one covered, be it Royale, be it Teo, be it Fofana. Who else got? There's someone who was subbed on late on the third one who just didn't cover. Who was
Okafor's getting a lot of shit because and I think it's right. It's times like this when I'd love to get the footage up, but if I did, then we'd get a copyright strike for it. But if you watch the goal back, and I'd urge everyone to do it, there are so many things, and I know we've skipped to the last goal that we conceded, but it's kind of like symbolic of our defensive failures this season. So Cagliari at this point have 3 centre forwards on, and 2 of them are particularly good in the air. Cagliari have the ball in a central area. They're allowed to work the ball into a crossing position so easily because our defense has all collapsed in on itself. But they're trying to stop passage into the area. So we've got about 5 men, I think, stood around on the edge of the box. A lot of people are going for Emerson Royale, saying, got to go over there and cut the cross out. I see it, but I think this is just a collective, systemic failure. Because at the moment that the cross is wound up to go into the box, there are 3 Cagliari players waiting and just our 2 centre-backs. So they're outnumbered in the middle, Pavlovic and Chow. And as the ball comes in, Teo can see the danger. So he abandons what would usually be his position on the far side of the box and goes into the middle to make it a 3-on-3, which I think is fine because if we'd have conceded a goal from one of those 3 guys in the middle and Teo was just stood looking at it, he'd be absolutely hammered for it. But what you've got to hope in that circumstance is that your left winger is tracking their right back. That's his man, that's his job, especially when you're defending a lead in the 89th minute. However, this is where you come to a confusion of roles because I think Okafor was brought on as Leao's direct replacement, with the idea being we'd clear that cross, the ball would be knocked long to him down the left side, and we'd have a golden chance on the counter. You could maybe argue Leao could have been kept on for that kind of thing. But basically, we've seen it's not in the DNA of our wingers to tuck in as additional fullbacks. If you want that, then you're probably going to have to play Musa. It's just, we just don't do it. And then the goal gets conceded that way. Don't get me wrong, it's an incredible finish. You don't really see fullbacks volley them into the roof of the net like that very often. But it was also a very, very frustrating goal to concede. And after the game, Zappa comes out and says, I'm a boyhood Milan fan. So thank you for that, mate. Couldn't have just missed, no?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to mentality. It really just seemed like the team just assumed that they were going to win this game every time. There was never real frustration after a goal, except for the third one, obviously, the final equalizer when it was too late to do anything. But yeah, they never were like, okay, he's conceding the first minute. That's kind of funny. Let's get one back. And then we do. So we concede, we equalize, we go ahead. They equalize.
That should be it, by the way.
We go ahead. They equalize. So, I mean, we proved that anytime they did it, we could do it again, but we ran out of time. And the reality is we never should have let them do it 3 times. There's no world where that makes sense to me. What place were they in before this game? 17th?
16th, I believe. They were just above the
top. Oh, they're in 16th right now. So they were on 7 points, which would have them in dead last as of today. So, I mean, there's no reason that should be happening. This is a horrible side, and I think it's just we thought after the Madrid stuff that we couldn't lose this game, and I don't think we gave it our all. I think Liao did. He definitely was
Mm.
feeling it, right? But Teo didn't. I don't think Emerson did. Reijnders, yeah, probably. I don't want to attack Pulisic because I don't think he was awful, but he definitely hasn't had a good game in this game. And outside of the assist at Madrid, I think he kind of made a few mistakes there as well, a lot of giveaways. So hopefully his form's not winding down. And I know he's got a busy international break with Nations League, something like that this week.
Jamaica.
Oh, it's just Jamaica, but we play him twice, right? It's like the semifinal.
Nations League, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, he's probably going to play because they're competitive games. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how everyone's form is after the break because most of our players got called up, right?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. I'm doing the international roundup later for the site, but I think it's up to about 17, 18 again. When you include the youth internationals, and I guess we need to include them when players like Camarda are actually starting games. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it doesn't help things because everyone thinks of the break as this opportunity to like recuperate and work on things, but like the entire starting 11 is basically not there.
Yeah.
So what can you
That's
possibly
only
work on?
beneficial to the lower level clubs.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, on the Pulisic thing, just before it pops out of my head, I think that Fonseca is guilty of arrogance on one particular count, and that is to continue to insist with the line of thinking that we can get away with playing that front four players, especially when one of them is Camarda. I know that seems weird because he had the best three players behind supporting him, but realistically, it just leaves us way too lopsided. Pulisic can play as an attacking midfielder. He can do it, but I think that that's an in-game change that needs to be made when we need a goal. Otherwise, I'll play him on the right. Chukwueze can be the impact sub. You can have Okafor to come on the left. It needs to be a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3 if that's what he really likes. If he liked what he saw, same sort of principles. But we cannot afford the luxury anymore of playing with that front four. We just can't. It's nothing that any of them specifically individually are doing wrong. It's just a system thing. It's leaving us open. We've said it God knows how many times before that this team is not built for that. It's built to play a midfield three, or to have more protection towards the back. I'll be sickened if he keeps it going after the break. I wanted to read down a list of results as well. Sampdoria 1-0, Lazio 2-0, Venezia 2-0. Torino 1-0, Genoa 3-0, Salernitana 2-0, Venezia 3-0, Sampdoria 1-0, Napoli 1-0, Empoli 1-0, Cagliari 1-0, Genoa 2-0, Fiorentina 1-0, Atalanta 2-0, Sassuolo 3-0. Those are a list of results from our Scudetto winning season. And what did we do in that Scudetto winning season, where I think we had an objectively worse team than what we do right now? We made sure that if we scored, we fucking won. Because we didn't let anything in at the back. We put a really high price on our own net, and don't get me wrong, there were games in that season where we had to come from behind. Inter obviously being the famous one with the comeback. But there were games when we needed a rescue act. However, I can stomach going behind as well. If you go behind in 2 minutes to a goal like that should have been called offside, but you find yourself 2-1 up going into the break, you just make sure that you fucking win. Like, I just think it's laughable that the game was able to be reopened. This is a Cagliari team, by the way, who'd scored 9 in 11 coming into this game. So they scored an extra 25% of their goals against us. And it is
something I said a few weeks back that I got a lot of hate for proved to be true yet again. Every time we switch to 5 at the back, put on a third center back, we concede. The idea that we're going to become more defensive by magically switching mid-game when players are tired to a system we don't use is stupid. It has never worked for us factually. You could go back multiple seasons and see when we put on the third defender to carry out the lead with 20 minutes to go, 30 minutes to go, whatever it may be, we concede in the 89th. Almost every single time. It's actually astounding.
Seems to create more confusion.
Yeah, because players, they don't play in this system. I'm sure they do practice in the system, but we don't play it in any games. We never line up with 3 at the back. So when we do that, we get situations like Okafor not tracking his man because he assumes, we got 5 defenders on. Someone's on him. Well, no, it's your man. You're not on it.
Mm.
And it happens again, like I said, confusion multiple times over. Just you don't need to change the system for that. I mean, the only change of the system that I would make is the 4-3-3, like you said, if you're taking off Chukwueze or Pulisic, and then you put on Musa and just make it a flat three in midfield or something, Not
Mhm.
Loftus-Cheek to put on another attacking midfielder who doesn't know how to attack, who doesn't know how to pass the ball. I mean, Loftus-Cheek is you're putting yourself down a man, and then you're taking another forward off to put on another center back who doesn't know how to work in a 3 at the back or a 5 at the back. And this is what happens every single
He
time.
definitely keeps bringing RLC on for set pieces. You can tell because of his height, but how
How many of
often
those
do
does
they
he
actually
score?
land at one specific man? And what should be his biggest threat, which is carrying the ball on the counter, you kind of like, I don't know, you've got too many players there that are trying to do the same thing, because surely that's why you brought Okafor on and you've kept him wide on the left side to carry the ball forward on the counter. So you end up getting caught in between what you're trying to do. And I do think that this team can play a formation with 3 centre backs, but from minute one, and with a bit of practice doing so, to switch to doing it mid-game while you're defending a lead, as you said, I think it just seems to create doubts in the minds of players, because everything changes. You're effectively changing from man to zone. You're coming up against 3 centre forwards, so you could say that we did need to add an extra body in there, but it didn't seem to work. It all came unstuck in the 89th minute. I remember was it the Roma game when we were 2-0 up with like a minute to go and ended up drawing 2-2, and Tammy Abraham scored the equaliser. That one in January at San Siro. That's when we threw an extra centre back on, and it just like,
Yeah.
it didn't work. We completely collapsed. If anything, the move that's meant to see out the game actually reopens it. But yeah, it was not a good performance. Look, we doubled them on XG according to this, but they had more shots on target, 4 each on big chances. They had double the amount of corners that we did. Honestly, 3-3 draw might have actually been a fair result, but they could have had it, man. Like they looked more dangerous with what they did, and this is a team that could not score for shit until they played us.
I mean, you look at
No goals, right?
the offside goals. They put the ball in the back of the net 5 or 6 times.
Yeah,
they did it. They got there. They didn't all count, but they were able to score on us that many times. And when we're coming from the Real Madrid game, where Mike Mignon puts on the greatest performance of his career, and then a team from Sardinia who has no goals, 9 goals all season, they almost double it. It's crazy. They added like 35%, and it's just it shouldn't happen.
Stop rotating the fucking centre backs, please. I'm literally begging Fonseca
That's another
at this
thing.
point. Please
How many
stick with
times?
them. Just stick with it. And look, if he's waiting, you can't use competitive games as an experimentation period. But if he's trying to figure out who's going to partner Gabbia when he comes back, because he sees him as the number one man, I hope he's got his answers. I really do, from this, because we're so easy to score against. I hate it. And, I sometimes think I'll get blasted for saying it, but like, I value clean sheets so highly because the history of this league shows us that the team with the best defense is the one that wins it, And I think that it's not even that. I think we need to keep clean sheets to make sure top 4 is there. Because otherwise,
we're 6 points outside of the top 6 right now. And after the break, we play Juventus. So
that's a massive game. All of a sudden, I say all of a sudden. Obviously, it's always a massive game, but like, yeah, I know, but
I feel
just like must win.
I feel
probably.
like most games from here on out, we have to get the best result possible.
Yeah.
3-3 away is not the best possible, right?
Yeah.
No.
And playing Bologna in our game in hand, that's not a guaranteed either. They're tied on points with us. They're one position below, and that's just because of goal difference. But they're tied on points. They could easily win. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And the fact that top 6 are 2 points separated, and we're 6 points outside of that. I mean, this should be a Scudetto race. It should be wide open right now. You look at the games that we have foolishly dropped points. This one, Parma, Torino, Lazio. I mean, there's so many. Fiorentina. I mean, there's so many that we should have got more points in. and we should be right up there challenging. I'm
Yeah.
not going to complain about
We
getting
do beat
by Napoli,
Bologna, and we're only 5 points off the top. That's not like
but that's 2 games. You want 6 teams in front of us to lose 2 consecutive games? Like,
no, but that's also that
This
can
is
happen.
this
right?
is
Like,
Napoli's
that's a
toughest
very
run, though.
tight
Like
race.
the reason that it's condensed from the moment that Napoli beat us to go 11 points clear is because they've lost to Atalanta and they've drawn against Inter, who were second and fourth respectively. So who's to say that once their fixtures ease up a bit, they don't go on another tear because they haven't got European competitions. Yeah, we're on the outside looking in without a doubt. If you add 2 points on to where we are now, which we should have got from the Cagliari game, that's all I'm asking. You see that result out and you add 2 points on. I think we're going into this break a lot more optimistic. We're 6 points off top with the game in hand. And when we play Juve, we could really compress things if we were to beat them. But now, the way things are, it just feels like a big gap has opened up. And I think we have a real fight on our hands for top 4. That being said, I don't actually expect Fiorentina and Lazio to stay up there.
No, I think we'll get definitely in the European spots. But as the season goes on and as we continue to be a 50% team, because that's what we are right now, it's hard to imagine us being comfortably inside the top 4, top 5, whatever we need this year. When you look at last week, you bottle to a team in relegation like we did, and you're in 7th, and then 4 of the 6 teams above you win, and the only reason the other 2 teams didn't is because they played each other and they drew, so you didn't gain points on them either. That's a scary notion. That means the entire league is leaving you behind. Those are all the places that matter, and it continues to get further and further out of reach.
You said that we're a 50% team. We're actually a 69% team.
Nice.
Because we lost 69% of our aerial duels against Cagliari.
Oh,
so there's a stat for you.
Wait, what is our actual? No, we're a below 50% team.
Yeah, we don't win half our games.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
lovely.
Some stats. Oh wait, should we do tops and flops?
Oh yeah.
Top Leao,
flop Emerson.
Entire fucking defense.
Yeah. What do we want now?
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah, we'll do questions. I just want to read some stats out first, though. In terms of fouls committed, we are last in Serie A, as in we commit the most, with 117 in total, and second last for fouls per game with 10.6. We are last in Serie A for recovered balls, 435 total, and third last in average per game. We're last in Serie A for duels won, 472 in total, and third last in duels won per match. We are second last in Serie A for aerial duels won and second last in average per match. So basically, there's fuck all fight about this team because those are all the physical stats that matter. That's
we have no backbone.
That's your grinter. That's your grit. That's what I think the Italian press. Yeah, that's what the Italian press sometimes I think overdo a bit. Is like, oh, you need that to win the title. I think those numbers prove where we're lacking and where we need to improve. Yeah. Anyway, questions. Where are we? Shit. Right. Let me get the questions tweet up. I saw one of them.
Do you think if we kept Pioli, we'd be in a better overall position?
I think that we'd potentially have more. Well, I think we would have more points in the table, but we'd have lost to Inter. And we wouldn't have beaten Real Madrid. Yeah.
I think we'd probably be in the exact same spot Champions League, but we wouldn't have won the games we did. It's all the same, dude. It's
you repackaging shit.
Exactly. Take the glasses off. Like it's the same.
Yeah. All right. So first question. Christopher Otterson asks, realistic January transfer to strengthen the defense at centre back. I like this one because I had to think of a name.
I take a right back, not a center back, but
I
don't know
who.
I don't know who's available right now to give like a realistic one. But I agree. I think it's got to be a right back. I don't think another center back really does anything for us when we can't pick who we want to start up front anyway, or in the back anyways.
Yeah. If I had to pick a centre back, I would try for Dragozin at Spurs. The one who was really good at Genoa and got the move to Spurs, and we were in for him. But Genoa obviously accepted the higher bid from Spurs. He's not regular starter for them, but I really liked what I saw from him. He seemed a bit like a younger Kier, and I do think we could use somebody who is as tough as him, but like he's not tough in the Pavlovic erratic way. He seems to be quite composed as well. He's played in a 4 and a 3, so maybe we could try for him, you know, on a loan or whatever. Say, look, you sold us Emerson, lads, so you're always a favour here. Fucking hell. I'd go for somebody like Dragusin if we were to get a centre back. Right back's an interesting one. I think sounds like Calabria and Florenzi, the more that time passes, are heading for the exit. So I just wonder if we could use someone with a bit more experience. The report from Tutto Mercato web today is that straight after the game against Cagliari, we rung up Zappa's agent and said, like, is he available, basically, because he's out of contract at the end of the season. So we could sign a free to replace the 2 lads who were leaving on a free, and he's a boyhood fan of the club, and he's homegrown. So get him in. That's what I say. This kind of feeds in as well. Christian
in time for him
Espinosa.
to go another 109 games with no goals.
Well, Emerson Royale hasn't scored yet, so
you know whose contract also ends this summer at the end of the season? Trent Alexander-Arnold. Get him in.
He's going to be so good at Madrid. Wonder what David Coots thinks of him. Christian Espinosa asks, I know Roma are worse than us, but do you think if we had signed Hummels, he could have made a difference for our defense? Kind of similar.
Yeah, if Fonseca would have kept the same back line, but he isn't, so it doesn't matter.
The thing is, I don't know where Hummels is at because I don't think he's played yet for Roma outside of like.
Didn't he get sent off on it? Oh, he scored an own goal, didn't he?
He scored an own goal on his debut. Yeah, like 9 games into the season. And I just don't know why they waited that long to even play him. And then
he's like 45.
He's like that. I think he's 34.
36.
No, my point is he's old.
Oh.
Like,
yeah, but for a center back, that's fine.
I would have liked Hummels, but I think if you're going to sign him, you need to get him in at the start of pre-season, because what happened is it dragged on for so long with all the clubs that were interested that he basically had to go through the pre-season again, and that's why he didn't make his debut until round 9, and he just looked really rusty. Roma are a tire fire.
That's how we do all of our transfers, the last day, and then by Christmas they're settled in, right?
Well, and that's kind of his fault for waiting so long, because he knew he wasn't renewing. And he should have went to the first big club that was after him, because he just started the Champions League final. And Como, that'd have been sick. I bet he'd be doing better there.
Bologna. I think he rejected Bologna, Como, Mallorca. There was another Spanish team as well, like Villarreal or something. He just was like, "Nah, I'm gonna wait," and then he settled on Roma.
It's the only club with European ball to offer.
Bologna are Champions League.
Right. Yeah, that's stupid. Why would you not go there?
Yeah, he should have done that.
He saw the writing on the wall that they're collapsing, but then again, they're tied on points with us. So
honestly, that flood has done them wonders, man. Like literally, has allowed them to regroup, and they've come back stronger. Final one then from Di Maio. This is from on the Discord chat. If you wanna go over there, you got to sign up to the Substack, but it is a great community. With Reijnders' importance to the team, as shown by his recent stats, do you think simply doubling his salary is enough to ward off other big clubs who are looking at him? Or do you think he deserves 4 mil or more per season? So he's currently on 1.7, I believe, mil net per season. And they're a pretty...
Internet froze when you said who?
Reijnders.
Who?
There are pretty strong rumours that Man City and Barca and I think Spurs, but I'm not sure he'd go to Spurs, taking a look at him. And why wouldn't you, with the way that he's been playing in the Champions League?
I think he's pretty happy, though. Didn't he say like his dad kind of forced him to come here? Like he was like, yo, you're going to Milan sort of deal, you know? Like
sign of a happy son.
Oh, yeah.
My dad forced me here. Yeah.
Just like the whole family loves Milan or whatever. And, you know, I don't think he would leave. They'd have to offer a shit ton of money. I mean, it is City, so.
Yeah, but who wants to live in Manchester?
Yeah, because all the players who play for City play for them.
The Gallaghers.
The Gallaghers. I would give him 4 mil. I think he deserves it.
I wouldn't.
It's also my money.
I would offer him 2 mil and move up from there, but I wouldn't start high and try to work my way down.
I would end at 4 mil. I wouldn't just be like, here's 4, he'd be like 5. Oh,
Yeah.
you know.
Just because once you give him 4, you set the precedent, and when it's ready for his next contract, now he
He's
needs
on 8.
7, he wants 8, he wants 9, you know. I'd
So
rather
if I'm
give him
Reijnders,
2 and
right,
then 4 and then 6.
If I'm Reijnders' agent, which I think is also his dad, who has said before about how much he loves being here, so that's all good. Like, it gives us a bit of leverage. But if I'm his agent, I'm saying, well, Theo Hernandez's 4.5 and Reijnders is as important. Now, the club could go back and say, no, he's been here longer. He's vice captain, but essentially captain. He's been part of a title-winning team, blah, blah, blah. But Reijnders could also easily say, I am as important to this team as he is. So I want the same. You could even look at the Leao salary and say, well, I want about $1 million less than him, you know, because I've been more consistent or whatever. Like, there's these are all a back and forth. I think you settle in and around doubling his salary, doubling his pay at 3.5, something around about there. Another thing to consider is, obviously, we only signed him last summer, so he's under contract until 2028. But he is 26 now, so you're getting towards that extension in his prime, where this is the highest amount that he's going to earn. You know, it's probably from his next extension. So that'll factor into the negotiations
already. I thought he was like 22.
I wish he was. Wish he was. But yeah, that's it. Like, so let's say he signs an extension next summer when he's 27. You're looking at that contract taking him through until he's 31, 32. He'll still get another deal after that, definitely. And who knows, he might extend again if we're all the way up or he moves or whatever. But I think that will factor in, is that this is an important contract for him financially, for his young family and stuff like that. I just hope that we pay people what they're worth. You know, like the Teo thing's dragged on a lot. The Maignan thing's dragged on. Even Gabia's renewal, which is meant to be the easiest of all of them, still hasn't been done yet. So I'm just a little bit worried on the renewals front. But if the players are waiting to make sure that we've got a serious project to commit to as well, I don't blame them, you know, because we're waiting as fans to see that this ownership mean what they're talking about in terms of ambition. So money's not everything, but I think in this case it's quite a lot. Right, should we wrap it up there?
Okay.
It's been a pleasure, everybody. Managed an hour. No games to preview, but obviously we'll be back early next week with the Juventus preview. And yeah, I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
See you guys next week.
Maddie too. Cheers for watching, everybody. Have a good week.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti il mio cuore!